Okay, so here's some info on how to create one of these landscape templates. The template is going to be a sort of a default starting page that you can use for all your illustration drawings that you do, all your Illustrator work. This way, when you hand in files to me as well, or printouts, it'll have at the top just simply your name and exactly what I'm looking at, some kind of a document title. It's a good starting point for everybody to try making their own page first place, just as you work on an Illustrator, and then you can reuse it again and again. So we're going to start off by creating a new document. We can either do that from this little pop-up window. You just open this Illustrator, you'll see this window, and you can ask for a new print document. If you don't see this window, and you've got a blank screen, just go to File and ask for New, and you'll get a dialog box that looks like this. Don't skip over this thing or hit OK right away. It's asking you for some important setup information for the size of your document, how it's orientated. So the name of it is going to be Landscape Template. It's a print document, letter-sized. And a letter-sized document is, by default, 8.5 by 11 inches, standard piece of paper. Right now, the unit of measurement for this is points, which we'll learn more about later, but for this lesson, it makes more sense to leave it in inches. So there's the document, 8.5 by 11. Now, 8.5 by 11 inches, is that a portrait document or landscape? 8.5 wide. So this one's taller than it is wide. Okay. Right now it's set up portrait, but we want it to be landscape, like the title of the document suggests. So I got to click landscape here. That makes the page wider than it is tall, 11 by 8.5. And we'll hit OK. That's pretty exciting. Makes an empty page, right? Now we got to do some stuff with this. So first thing we're going to do is turn on some rulers. I want to put some basic information on this template page, but I want it aligned and in a carefully considered spot. So I'm going to head up to the View menu, and I'm going to show the rulers. You can watch for the shortcuts for some of these tools. That's the symbol for the option, or pardon me, the Apple or the Command key. So in this case, it would be Command R to turn the rulers on and off. So now I've got rulers both horizontally and vertically. And you can see it starts at 0 and it goes to 11 inches, and then from 0 to 8.5. You can reposition those rulers. I'm going to just zoom out a bit here. That's Apple minus. You can reset the origin of the ruler, and I like to do this sometimes. I'm in the habit of having the origin right in the upper left. So if you move over here where the rulers intersect, click and drag, you can reposition the starting point for the ruler, the origin. So now you see it's 0, 0, 11 inches over and 8.5 down. The next thing I want to do on screen here is position something called a guideline. So before I get too ahead of ourselves, we made a new document, landscape, which means that it's 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches high. And we set the units to inches as well. Oops. Now we were turned on the rulers. And if you don't remember, that was under the View menu. And then just look for Show Rulers in the menu. Next thing we're going to do is put on a couple of guidelines. Guidelines are one of the words in your definitions. Guidelines are lines that show up on screen, but they don't actually print out. They're just on here to help guide the positioning of graphics. Sometimes you print out guides, but generally not. So here's how it would work. I want a guideline. I want to position something an inch from the top of the page. I can sit anywhere inside the ruler. As long as I'm in the middle of the ruler, just click and drag. And that line that's following me is a guideline. And now I can look at the units of measure along the side here, and I can say, okay, put that guide at the 1 inch mark from the top of the page. I hold the Shift key down, I can pan over. So there's a guide 1 inch from the top of the page. So guidelines, we want 1 inch from top. And then we're going to add 2 more guides at 0.5 inch, so half an inch from each side. So that'll look like this. We sit on the other vertical ruler now, click and drag half an inch. I'm looking at the top ruler increment, there's a half an inch. And the same on this side here, half an inch, 10.5. So I end up with 3 guides. If I printed this document out now, it would just show up as a white, empty document. There'd be nothing there. I put them on screen because I want to add a simple line that stretches from that guide intersection to this one. Okay? In graphic design, a line is called a rule. Okay? So if we have a line on the screen, it's typically referred to as a rule. If I click, there's a line segment tool right here. And if I click on the line segment tool, the menu options at the top here change. If I quickly switch between different tools, you'll notice that menu bar typically will change. But I've got the line tool here, and I want to set the color and the thickness of the line. There's 2 boxes for color here. The first one is for filling something in, like if I had a sphere that I wanted to fill in. If I had a box I wanted to fill in with a color, I could specify it. The second box, in this case we're doing a line, it has no fill. I'm just interested in the color of the stroke, the outline. I'll leave it black. Okay. The weight, or the stroke of the line, is referred to in this case right now in points. Okay? And I'm going to set it to 2 points. It's the same point size that you use when you're editing a Word document. If I have 10-point or 12-point type in a Word document, same units of measurement. So a 2-point line is not going to be very thick. So we've got a line, or a rule, as we call it. It's going to be 2-point stroke. Okay, and the stroke is just another word for the thickness of it. And it's going to be black. So I've got it set black, 2-point thickness. I'm just about to put the line right between these 2 intersections, but I can use these guidelines to my advantage, not just by eye, but I can make the guidelines magnetic or sort of sticky so that the line will stick right to them. I'm going to head over to View and ask to turn the Smart Guides on. If I click this, it'll put a check mark next to them. We can make sure. Check mark. So now as I hover near the guides, you see in blue, hard to see on the LCD screen, but it mentions the word on screen there. It just popped up with the word intersect. So I'm going to click and drag with the line tool. And as I'm dragging across, I can feel it snap onto the line. It's magnetic. And it will now, as I get near the intersection here, it will automatically snap to that intersection, and I get a simple line on screen. We can turn the guides on or off if we want to see what's happening here. I can come over to guides here, and I can ask to hide and ask to hide and ask to hide. There's the line. Right. Seems like a lot of work. You'll get quite fast at it, right? And the guides were there to just help us position it. Final thing we have to do to this is just add 2 pieces of text. I'm going to turn the guides back on for a sec. And the pieces of text are simply your name and the title. So we've got a type tool here. And with the type tool, I'm going to specify, I want to use a very specific font here. It's Helvetica, if I just start typing it. 10-point size. And I'm just going to click in the middle of the document here. And so the first is going to be your name. Okay, don't use my name, use your name. That's going to go up here. We'll position it in a moment. And there's another piece of text we're going to have, so I'm going to click with the text tool again, and this is going to be the document title, which will appear over on the other side. I haven't used any uppercase letters here, no capitals. It's all lowercase at this point. Okay. Final thing I want to do is position another guide on screen. I'm going to zoom in, Apple Plus, hold the space bar, I can pan over. I'm going to position another guide 1/8 of an inch up from our rule here. Okay. So we've got the text tool. We're using the Helvetica font. And it's 10-point size. Okay. Black. And I've put a final guide 1/8 of an inch from the rule that's on there. And now I can position this text. I want it right in the intersection of the guide here. There's a very handy tool. I'm going to zoom way in on this area. When I hover over top of this word, okay, and right now I've got just the selection tool. Okay, it's the very first tool in the toolbar. With that selection tool, as soon as I hover over top, there's a little X that shows up in the corner here. If I hold down the Apple key, I can actually click on that little X, and I can drag it close to the guide intersections here, and it will snap right into position. So I know it's right along the baseline. I'm going to hold the space bar and pan across here, click and pan, so I can get to the other side, and I'll do the same thing. In this case, I can drag it down and get it stuck to the edge, and then I just manually bring it over so that I've got it in position here. So if I zoom out, I've got my name, document title, and a simple line that's on screen. That's all we need on the page template. Every file that you hand in Illustrator will have this page template with your name and the document title substituted in. Now, because we're going to reuse this again and again, okay, hopefully you make this template once and then you never have to make it again. Okay? I'm going to save this as a template. So rather than just say save as or save, I'm going to ask for save as a template. And save it into a location you'll be able to find again. Inside documents, you may want to create a new folder with your name. And it's going to be called landscape. landscape.ait.ai template. T stands for template. And I hit save. Now if I close off that document, and then reopen landscape template, it looks just like it did when I closed it. When I closed it, except the name title changed to Untitled 2. Okay, this is like having stack of sticky notes, where I can just keep them off one after the other. Every time I open this file, I open a new Untitled, I get a new Untitled, another new one right now. It'll do the same thing. Now I get an Untitled 3. So it's got the same information already started. We come in here, quickly come in here, change this to say working drawing or whatever the title of your document is. You may have to reposition it slightly, but you've got everything there. To do. So try that landscape template out.